Ano ang special treatment na binigay kay VP Sara Duterte? Gumawa sila ng mga bagong rules sa kalagitnaan ng laro para pigilan ang trial. Kumbaga sa basketball, panayang tawag ng foul sa atin ng referee kahit wala namang physical contact. Kada free throw natin, palayo ng palayo ang free throw line at pahirap ng pahirap makashoot. Parang ang lakas ng kalaban sa mga referee. Sa larong ito, hindi yata bilog ang bola. Masama bang itanong pagkatapos nating lumaro ng patas kung natalo ba talaga tayo o nadaya tayo? Malinaw na nagkamali po ang Korte Suprema, with all due respect to them, nang sabihin na hindi pinagbotohan sa plenary ang transmittal ng impeachment complaint. Taliwas sa paniniwala ng Senate President na minadali natin ang proseso, ang Senado ang nagpabagal nito. Let it be clear, it was not this institution that violated the Constitution. On the contrary, the House adhered faithfully to its constitutional duty to initiate an impeachment following clearly laid down and prevailing jurisprudence. Sadly, our co-equal branches have failed not only the Constitution, but the Filipino people. Our message is simple. Under our watch, the House's exclusive power to initiate impeachment will not be diminished. This is a power enshrined in the very framework of our democracy, built upon the principles of checks and balances. Nilunod ng teknikalidad ang mga tunay na tanong. Nasaan ang confidential funds? Sino sina Mary Jane Piatos, Fernando Tempura, Carlos Miguel Owishi, Chippy McDonald, at ilan pang mga pangalan na tila ba ginawang chichirya ang pera ng bayan? Bakit may halos 2 bilyon na umikot na pera sa joint bank accounts ni na Vice President Sara Duterte at ng kanyang ama na si Rodrigo Duterte? Sa gitna ng krisis edukasyon, bakit may akusasyon na nilalaro pa ang procurement ng Department of Education at ang kinabukasan ng ating mga kabataan? Tama ba ang pagbabantang ipapatay ang ating Pangulo, ang First Lady, at ang ating mismong Speaker of the House? Dear colleagues, these issues cut beyond partisan lines or personal ambition. They strike at the very heart of the principle that public office is a public trust. All public officials must be accountable to the people. When the House filed the impeachment complaint, it did so out of duty. It was not a power play, as some claim, but an exercise of its mandate to seek the truth and demand answers the Vice President never gave. Hanggang ngayon, walang sagot sa mga isyong ito. Yet in return, the House has been met with insults and accusations and a narrative reducing the solemn constitutional duty to mere politics. Today, I rise to set the record straight and call out these falsehoods. Nagkamali? Hilaw na sinaing daw na minadali ang pagkaluto? With due respect, this is patently false for the soundbite that it is. This House followed every constitutional requirement guided by Supreme Court precedents in Francisco versus House and Gutierrez versus House in crafting and timing this impeachment. Una, sinunod natin ang one-year bar rule sa pag-file ng impeachment complaint. There can be no application of the one-year bar rule because what the Supreme Court identified as a trigger, the so-called termination or archival of the other 3 impeachment complaints, happened after the House had already acted on the 4th complaint by transmitting the same to the Senate in accordance with Article 11, Section 3, subparagraph 4 of the Constitution. Ito ang pinaka-technical sa desisyon ng Korte Suprema. Para nitong pinilit palabasin ng 3 complaints na inihain sa first mode, actually it's supposed to be first and second modes, ay nagsilbing hadlang sa articles of impeachment na inihain ng kapulungang ito gamit ang second mode na 1/3 vote actually is supposed to be third mode, but to be consistent with the Supreme Court ruling and also the motion for reconsideration of the Sol Gen, or the Office of the Solicitor General, I shall also refer to it as the second mode. Pero ang hilaw dito ay hindi ang articles of impeachment, kundi ang paliwanag ng Korte Suprema. Sabi nga ng Sol Gen sa ating motion for reconsideration, ang articles of impeachment na inihain ng House gamit ang second mode o sa katunayan third mode ang siyang humadlang sa tatlong iba pang complaint. Binaliktad ng Korte Suprema ang totoong nangyari. Mr. Speaker, I respectfully but firmly submit the one-year bar rule has been abused and twisted in this instance to frustrate accountability for the highest officials of the land. The rule should be read and interpreted strictly in favor of accountability. It cannot be weaponized to make impeachment even harder. Napakahirap na nga ng proseso, lalo pang pinahirapan. Impeachable officials already stand as a class of their own, over and above all other government officials. Sobra na yata kung bibigyan pa ng special protection sa impeachment ang mga special officials na ito. Ano ang special treatment na binigay kay VP Sara Duterte? Gumawa sila ng mga bagong rules sa kalagitnaan ng laro para pigilan ang trial. May paghingi pa ng certification ng Senado na walang violation ang House sa one-year bar rule. May dagdag pa mula sa Korte Suprema na dapat may hearing pa rin sa second mode ng impeachment. Kumbaga sa basketball, panayang tawag ng foul sa atin ng referee kahit wala namang physical contact. Kada free throw natin, palayo ng palayo ang free throw line at pahirap ng pahirap makashoot. Parang ang lakas ng kalaban sa mga referee. Sa larong ito, hindi yata bilog ang bola. Masama bang itanong pagkatapos nating lumaro ng patas kung natalo ba talaga tayo o nadaya tayo? Pangalawa, malinaw na nagkamali po ang Korte Suprema, with all due respect to them, nang sabihin na hindi pinagbotohan sa plenary ang transmittal ng impeachment complaint. A plenary session was actually conducted where members of the House voted to immediately endorse the fourth impeachment complaint and transmit it to the Senate. Mismong House Journal ang nagpatunay dito at hindi lamang isang news report na tanging pinagbatayan ng Supreme Court. Simple lang po ang tinuro sa atin sa law school, sa rules of evidence, mas matimbang official government records kaysa sa news report. Ang una ay tinuturing na authentic at primary documentary evidence, ang pangalawa ay secondary source. So kung may conflict, yung primary document ang susundin natin. Let me stress the consequence. The highest court of the land, without even allowing the House to fully present its case through oral arguments and perhaps submission of memoranda, anchored a unanimous decision on second-hand news while brushing aside the official journal of a co-equal branch. Had the honorable justices bothered to take a look at the House Journal of February 5, 2025, which apparently it has done so on other occasions of transcendental importance, they would have seen that the House voted to transmit the articles of impeachment with overwhelming support, 215 votes, and that the earlier complaints were archived only as a formality after the fourth complaint has already been elevated. Yet the court's ruling, citing a mere news report, painted a false picture that the House rushed a new complaint despite pending ones, a narrative that flatly contradicts reality. Pangatlo, hindi nga manghuhula ang mga House members para malaman na noong February 5, babaguhin at dadagdagan pala ng Supreme Court pagdating ng July 25 ang ibig sabihin ng initiation na naiba sa mga dating desisyon nito sa Francisco versus HOR at Gutierrez versus HOR. Hindi natin kayang mag-time travel para sabihin sa mga congressmen noong February 5 na kailangan nilang sundin ang mga magiging bagong interpretasyon ng Supreme Court sa salitang initiation halos kalahating taon bago pa man ito maimbento at maisulat noong July 25. The principle of prospectivity applies not only to original or amendatory statutes and administrative rulings and circulars, but also to judicial decisions. When an old doctrine is overruled or, in the case of the Duterte case, substantially modified, the new doctrine should be applied prospectively and should not apply to those who relied on the old doctrine in good faith. Hindi lang po ako ang nagsabi niyan, kung hindi ang Supreme Court sa Columbia Pictures versus Court of Appeals. Nangaabuso ba tayo kung hilingin natin sa Korte Suprema na sa pagkakataong ito, na sundin rin sana nila ang sarili nilang desisyon sa doktrina ng prospectivity? Palagay ko hindi po naman. Pang-apat, at ang pinakamahalaga sa lahat, katulad po ng sinabi ng ating minority leader kahapon, nagkaroon ng judicial amendment of the Constitution. Ang pag-amyenda sa Constitution ay huling ginawa ng Korte Suprema sa kaso ng Republic versus Sereno. Sa kasong ito, inalis sa pwesto bilang Chief Justice si Maria Lourdes Sereno sa pamamagitan ng quo warranto, taliwas sa utos ng konstitusyon na ang mga miyembro ng Korte Suprema ay pwede lamang tanggalin sa pamamagitan ng impeachment. Duterte versus HOR is the second amendment of the Constitution by the Supreme Court since the Sereno case. Article 11, Section 3, Paragraph 4 of the Constitution does not contain additional requirements regarding the drafting of the complaint, the manner of its circulation, or the conduct of any hearing or presentation of evidence before filing. These details, I respectfully submit, are outside of constitutional parameters and are best left to the rules on impeachment promulgated by the House. If the Supreme Court's decision remains undisturbed, there will now be two new subsections under Article 11, Section 3, Subparagraph 4 of the 1987 Constitution, as amended by the Supreme Court in Duterte. Aside from the requirement that it must be filed by 1/3 of the members of the House before transmittal to the Senate, the articles of impeachment must now be furnished first to the official being impeached in its draft form to give her the opportunity to respond. Thereafter, the articles of impeachment still in its draft form and the impeachable official's response should be furnished to all the members of the House for deliberation before voting on the same. These are now, seemingly, the new subsections of Article 11, Section 3, Subparagraph 4 of the 1987 Constitution, as amended by the Court in Duterte, if not reversed. Unlike amendments properly made under Article 17 of the Constitution, on amendments and revisions, these amendments made by the Supreme Court are not subject to a plebiscite. These two new subsections are also problematic, not only because they are unconstitutional amendments to Article 11, Section 3, Subparagraph 4, but they are also problematic in substance. A draft articles of impeachment without any signature of any House member or congressional official cannot be treated as an official document. It might not be any better than a mere scrap of paper. Now, why would an impeachable official respond to an unsigned draft? And by what power is she or he compelled to do so when, for all intents and purposes, it is entirely possible that not a single congressman or congresswoman will even sign it? What is the legal status of the draft articles of impeachment at that point, before it is even signed by a single House member? Is it an official scrap of paper? Will the Supreme Court now add another amendment requiring the House Secretary General or the Speaker of the House to attest to and verify the unsigned draft articles as an official document of the House? If the Speaker attests to it, does that lone signature amount to endorsement? Can any single House member sign and therefore make it official enough to trigger the impeachable official's obligation to respond? have we not just come full circle to the first mode of impeachment, effectively repealing the second mode or the third mode in its entirety from the 1987 Constitution? And if the draft is later changed in plenary after the official filed a response, must he or she respond again and again for every new version? If not given the chance to respond to a modified second, third, or fourth draft, whatever, would that not be another so-called violation of the right to due process? Mr. Speaker, the questions are endless. This is the danger with judicial amendments to the 1987 Constitution. At hindi po tayo nag-iisa sa mga obserbasyong ito. Former COMELEC Chair Christian Monsod, one of the framers of the 1987 Constitution, noted that the court, quote, imposed retroactively new requirements that were never part of past impeachment precedents, end of quote, such as a plenary hearing before referral to committee and giving the respondent a chance to be heard at the House even before we transmit the case to the Senate. As he put it, if there is a violation of due process, it is when one is required to comply with a rule that did not exist at the time of the act. Retired Chief Justice Reynato Puno, speaking for the Philippine Constitutional Association, or PhilConsa, voiced grave concern over this judicial intrusion. PhilConsa warned that requiring the House to certify compliance with the one-year ban, a requirement found nowhere in the Constitution, encroaches on the House's sole prerogative under Article 11, Section 3. Quote, to create such a requirement, according to C.J. Puno, to create such a requirement ex post facto undermines both the separation of powers and the rule of law, end of quote. Once the Senate has received the articles of impeachment in February 5, it has validly acquired jurisdiction, and that jurisdiction cannot be lost or suspended by mere procedural acts, such as the lack of a House certification. Retired Senior Associate Justice Antonio Carpio also noted that the court relied on a media report instead of official records of the House. Indeed, ABS-CBN News itself has clarified that the news item the Supreme Court cited were misinterpreted, and did not reflect the official House Journal of Proceedings. Retired Justice and 1986 Constitutional Commission member Adolf Ascuna said it best, quote, the Constitution does not say there has to be a hearing. The Supreme Court now says there has to be a hearing. That is rewriting the Constitution, not just the rules. The Supreme Court is saying the Constitution is unconstitutional, end of quote. Hindi po palpak ang Kamara at lalong hindi ito sunod-sunuran sa ambisyon ng iilan. We will not allow our duty to hold a high official accountable for grave violations of law and public trust to be twisted by cheap analogies about undercooked rice. Kung merong hilaw dito, ito ang mga paliwanag ni VP Inday Sara sa mga isyong kinakaharap niya. Bakit ba takot na takot siyang harapin ang impeachment trial kung malinis ang kanyang konsensya?
Ikaw na.
Perhaps more than anyone, I know that the innocent can look their accusers in the eye and say that the evidence is false, if not a total sham. Let me be equally clear. The House of Representatives, a co-equal branch of government, was fulfilling its duty in exercising its constituent powers that even the Supreme Court cannot just take away. Hindi pwedeng basta ipawalang bisa ng Korte Suprema ang kapangyarihang ipinagkaloob ng saligang batas sa Kamara, lalo na kung maling batayan ng ginamit nito. The separation of powers is like a finely tuned scale, each branch bearing its own weight so that the Republic stands upright. When one branch acts in a way that shifts that weight, it must move with the precision of a surgeon, not the force of a sledgehammer. To do otherwise is to risk toppling the balance entirely, leaving our people with a government where one power overshadows the rest and the promise of checks and balances becomes nothing more than a faded inscription in a dusty law book. Long-established principles on judicial restraint and separation of powers have been cast aside. In Duterte, the Supreme Court painted in broad strokes, ignoring the boundaries of competence and authority it once acknowledged in Imbong versus Ochoa, GR number 204819, April 8, 2014. I quote, medyo mahaba-haba po itong quotation, but I find it very important. In many cases involving the determination of the constitutionality of the actions of the executive and the legislature, it is often sought that the court temper its exercise of judicial power and accord due respect to the wisdom of its co-equal branch on the basis of the principle of separation of powers. To be clear, the separation of powers is a fundamental principle in our system of government, which obtains not through express provision, but by actual division in our Constitution. Each department of the government has the exclusive cognizance of matters within its jurisdiction and is supreme within its own sphere. In its relationship with its co-equals, the judiciary recognizes the doctrine of separation of powers, which imposes upon the courts proper restraint, born of the nature of their functions and of their respect for the other branches of government, in striking down the acts of the executive or the legislature as unconstitutional. Verily, the policy is a harmonious blend of courtesy and caution. It has long been observed, however, that in times of social disquietude or political instability, the great landmarks of the Constitution are apt to be forgotten or marred, if not entirely obliterated. In order to address this, the Constitution impresses upon the court to respect the acts performed by a co-equal branch done within its sphere of competence and authority, but at the same time allows it to cross the line of separation, but only at a very limited and specific point to determine whether the acts of the executive and the legislative branches are null because they were undertaken with grave abuse of discretion. End of quote. A harmonious blend of courtesy and caution. Hanggang ngayon, pilit ko pang hinahanap ang sinasabing courtesy and caution na dapat nagpaalala sa ating Korte Suprema sa pagsulat ng desisyon nila sa Duterte versus HOR. We respect the judiciary. As a lawyer, I respect the judiciary. But respect must be mutual. The court must also honor the legislature's exclusive domain over impeachment unless there is clear, grave abuse of discretion or blatant violation of the Constitution, which this House most certainly did not commit. Upholding the Constitution sometimes means checking a co-equal's overreach. In this case, it is our duty to call out the Supreme Court's encroachment on Congress's power done under the guise of procedure. Sa botohan sa Senado noong nakaraang Miyerkules, halos nag-chorus ang mga anti-impeachment na senador sa pagsasabing kailangang igalang desisyon ng Supreme Court. Pero mula pa noong Pebrero, sino ba talagang hindi gumalang sa mga institusyon ng gobyerno? Sino bang sinabihan ng Senate President na mali yung timing ng pag-transmit ng articles of impeachment dahil tapos na ang session at mangangampanya na ang mga senador? Sino bang inutusan ng Senado na mag-certify na hindi lumabag sa one-year bar rule ang House at niremand dito ang articles of impeachment? Sino ba ang tinanong ng Korte Suprema kung nabasa at naintindihan ba ng mga House members ang articles of impeachment na kanilang pinirmahan? Sino? Matapos ang napakahabang proseso sa Senado at sa Korte Suprema, ang hindi man lamang binigyan ng pagkakataon na mag-oral arguments bilang isang co-equal branch bago isulat ang desisyon. Kung respeto lang po ang pinag-uusapan, nilunok na ng mga miyembro ng kapulungang ito ang lahat ng kanilang pride para lamang irespeto ang Senado at Korte Suprema sa kabila ng lahat ng pag-iinsulto na ginawa sa kanila. Records clearly show that the impeachment was duly initiated in February 5, 2025, in full accordance with Article 11, Section 3, subparagraph 4, and yet the Senate failed to do its duty to proceed with impeachment forthwith. The Senate could have convened as an impeachment court as early as February or March, but it did not. Some of us in the House grew concerned at this 5-month delay, as justice delayed is justice denied. Still, the House prepared for trial, designating our House prosecution team and readying our evidence. Nevertheless, on June 10, in a twist, the Senate adopted the resolution to remand the articles of impeachment back to the House, asking the House to certify that the one-year bar rule had been observed effectively. The Senate was suspending the trial pending this certification. Alas, on July 25, without any oral arguments, the Supreme Court issued its decision nullifying the House's articles of impeachment and barred the Senate from proceeding, supposedly on the ground the impeachment was initiated more than once in a year and that the Vice President's due process rights were supposedly violated at the House level. Worse, even if the House of Representatives, through the Office of the Solicitor General, filed a motion for reconsideration, the Senate, in plenary session, voted 19-5 to archive the impeachment complaint against VP Duterte. This move was exceptionally swift, contrary to their extremely tardy action, their stalling when it came to their convening as an impeachment court. Aside from the House's motion for reconsideration, 4 other MRs were filed by Movement's interveners. The first group of complainants with the endorser, Akbayan Representative Percy Sendanya, Isang Bayan and the Makabayan Bloc, and just yesterday, another group of interveners, the third group of impeachment complainants, also made a plea to the court to reverse its July 25 decision. These MRs are not frivolous or sham. They raise strong and compelling arguments necessitating a serious review of the July 25 decision. At sana po, sa pagkakataong ito, magpatawag ang Korte Suprema ng oral arguments. The pending motions for reconsideration embody the Filipino people's concern for the integrity of the impeachment process and their call for the accountability of the Vice President. To ignore these legitimate pleas by archiving the articles of impeachment even before they're fully heard by the Supreme Court is being insensitive, not only to the demands of the lawmakers, constituents, and sectors they represent, but to public opinion as well. The Senate has not even started the trial, but it moved with lightning speed to bury the complaint once the Supreme Court gave them an opening. The Senate dragged its feet on the actual impeachment trial, but moved immediately when it came to archiving the complaint. Parang mali po yata ang intindi nila sa forthwith proceed. Forthwith apparently was observed in the breach. Ang bilis nilang kumilos pagdating sa pagsasara ng kaso, pero napakabagal nang sila hinihilingang dinggin ang kaso. If this is not a case of double standard, I don't know what it is. The irony is that following the decision of the Supreme Court in Duterte, archiving the articles of impeachment is tantamount to a dismissal. Hindi po ba yun ang sinasabi, yung first 3 complaints daw, when archived, were deemed or effectively terminated or dismissed? Some senators have said their preemptive vote was simply respect for the Supreme Court. But let us be honest. It is the House of Representatives whose constitutional prerogative has been disrespected. The Constitution commands the Senate to proceed with impeachment forthwith, yet it took them nearly half a year to even consider convening as an impeachment court. But when the opportunity came to archive the complaint, suddenly forthwith was crystal clear to them. That burst of urgency after months of delay is telling. It is not unreasonable to suspect that this timing was no coincidence, that the Senate's slow walk at the start bought time for the Vice President, for her lawyers to reach the Supreme Court, and for the court to run the full length of its decision-making ritual. This was not respect for another branch. It was a choreography of convenience, and the House was the one made to bow. Those are the facts, Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, and dear colleagues. Maliwanag na maliwanag po na sinunod ng Kamara ang proseso at ang saligang batas, at hindi po ang House ang lumabag nito. If anything, it is the Senate whose unorthodox actions need defending before the bar of public opinion and when posterity will take a look at this chapter of our history. I have great respect for the Senate as an institution, having had the privilege of serving one of its former members. And I know there are senators, those who voted against archiving, for instance, who also see this outcome as a disservice to our people. But when the Senate chooses to abdicate a constitutional duty, we must speak up. We do not rise against the Senate, we rise for the Republic and the Filipino people. Tulad nga ng sinabi ng isang kasamahan natin, quote, "Just because the Senate dropped the case doesn't mean the issue disappears. The public is still waiting for answers. Deflection is not accountability," end of quote. The Senate President said that the Senate is not anyone's playground, and that is precisely why we expected it to rise above politics and uphold its duty to conduct a fair trial and not to preemptively dismiss by archiving the case. If this was truly about deference to the Supreme Court, the Senate could have simply suspended proceedings temporarily until the motions for reconsideration are resolved, to give the Supreme Court and the House the due courtesy they deserve as co-equal branches. Instead, they rushed to archive or terminate the case. Malinaw ang mga pangyayari. Taliwas sa paniniwala ng Senate President na minadali natin ang proseso, ang Senado ang nagpabagal nito. What we witness from the Senate is not the moving of heaven and earth to exact accountability and attain justice, but the moving of heaven and earth to render extraordinary protection to the Vice President. Sadya bang napaka-espesyal ni VP Sara para ipagliban ng Senado ang impeachment trial ng halos kalahating taon? Sadya bang napaka-special ni VP Sara para maglatag ng mga bagong patakaran ang Korte Suprema na naging balakid sa pananagutan sa puntong ito? Mr. Speaker, sa ginawa ng Senado at ng Korte Suprema, malinaw na maipamalas sa ating ng pananatili ng kapangyarihan ng mga Duterte. Panganib itong hindi dapat maliitin. Hindi naman kasi imbento ang mga akusasyon natin, ang mga akusasyon natin laban kay VP Sara. Buong bayan ang nanood sa kanyang bantang ipapatay raw niya ang Pangulo, ang unang ginang at ang Speaker. Meron na raw siyang kinausap na assassin. Siya pa mismo ang nagdiin, hindi ito biro. No joke. No joke. Mr. Speaker, it is really not a joke. Under ordinary circumstances, when a death threat is broadcast live on the internet to the highest and fourth highest officials of the land, it is doubtful that the offender would remain free the next day. So what makes this instance fall outside of ordinary circumstances? First, the offender is an impeachable official. Second, she is a Duterte. Because of these extraordinary circumstances, VP Sara not only evades charges at this point, she even has no less than institutions shielding her as if her death threat broadcast live on the internet were nothing more than a joke. Si VP Sara na nga po ang nagsabi na hindi ito joke 2 beses pa. Ganito po kalakas si VP Sara sa sistema ng ating hustisya. Tila baga wala siya sa ilalim nito. Nandun siya sa itaas, untouchable, malayo sa pananagutan ng Kongreso, bilang isang impeachable official na sa disensyon ng ating konstitusyon ay ang tanging sangay na may kapangyarihang panagutin siya sa puntong ito. Sana, until the Supreme Court came out with Duterte versus HOR. Kaya wag na po tayong magtaka kung ganito na lang ang kawalang respeto sa otoridad ang mga Duterte. I think that it is also the first time in Philippine history that someone challenged our top law enforcer, the PNP chief, to a fist fight. Of course, it had to be a Duterte. Yun nga lang umurong at nagpalusot. But like his sister, Baste Duterte is still free and unaccountable for what can be considered to a certain extent, an assault on an officer of the law, or at least for committing the offense of challenging to a duel. Ito na ba ang sadyang kalakaran sa Pilipinas, na basta Duterte, untouchable? Dapat lang tayo mangamba kung may isang buong pamilya sa Pilipinas na hindi tinatablan ng ating mga batas. Buti na lang po, yung tatay hindi dito haharap sa hustisya. Ang Pangulong Marcos Jr. na mismo ang nagsabi, walang kinalaman na mga akusasyon kay VP Sara sa naging desisyon ng Korte Suprema. Puro tungkol sa proseso lang naman daw ang laman ng desisyon. Ayaw pa rin daw niyang makialam sa proseso dahil bilang isang impeachable official himself, maaaring self-serving ang kanyang opinyon sa proseso ng impeachment. With all due respect, the Supreme Court should take the cue from the President and reflect on the value of the President's statement that an impeachable official should be careful in his opinions about the impeachment process because they might be self-serving. Hindi nga ba may naisingit na rider sa Duterte decision na hindi pwedeng ma-impeach ang mga miyembro ng Constitutional Commissions at ng Supreme Court kapag collegial act o desisyon ang dahilan? Even if treated merely as an obiter dictum in the Duterte decision, this statement on what is an invalid cause for impeachment, when this is not even the lis mota of that case, is a highly irregular, self-serving rider doctrine. It is completely unrelated to the case being disposed of by the court, who should have taken a page from the President's book on self-restraint. Having said that, we also wish that the President had refrained from thumbing down the impeachment or sending mixed signals. So meron din pong kamalian ang Pangulo doon sa kanyang mga naunang mga statements noon na tila ba dinidiscourage ang House na ipatuloy yung impeachment. At least he should have called for an all-out support on the need for accountability, even from impeachable officials. Of course, VP Sara can still be made accountable in a future impeachment complaint. But that is not the point I'm making here, Madam Speaker, dear colleagues. The point is, the impeachment process has now been made more difficult by the court's decision in Duterte, if not nearly impossible. That is why Duterte versus HOR, if not reconsidered, is unacceptable. The checkpoints and roadblocks it has erected are simply insurmountable for House members to even dare endorsing one in the near future. Accountability has never been made more difficult to achieve in this country than now. And this is the reason why I am also against, basically, the prospective application of the decision in Duterte case. There is no alternative to overturning the rules and doctrines laid down in this decision. Duterte versus HOR and the lip service it paid to due process at the expense of accountability simply has no place in a democratic republic where the people should be able to hold to account every single public official, even the special class of impeachable ones. Indeed, this fight is not over. Hindi patapos ang laban ng katotohanan. Patapos na rin po ako. Our fight is far from over. The House of Representatives will not waver in its duty to fight for the Filipino people. Ginampanan natin ang mandato ng konstitusyon and we will continue to do so. Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, today we may be a mix of majority and minority, administration and opposition, but on this issue, let us be one House, united for the Constitution, regardless of our political affiliations or our stance on the Vice President. We must reject any attempt to diminish the House's exclusive power under our fundamental law. If we let this pass, we would be abdicating a sacred duty and weakening the very foundations of checks and balances. History is watching. The people are watching. Let this echo through the halls of Congress and into the hearts of our people. No one is above the Constitution. Not the Vice President, not the President, not the legislature, not even the judiciary. The Constitution is the people's sovereign will, and today, in its defense, the House of Representatives oath to stand unbowed, unafraid, and united. Tuloy po ang laban para sa konstitusyon, para sa rule of law, at para sa katotohanan. Maraming salamat po, Mr. Speaker, dear colleagues. Thank you for your patience. Thank you.